Welcome to the KZGN News. Today we're bringing you news on the latest presidential races, how Trump's proposal to stop certain Muslims from entering the U.S., news about this weekend's Christmas parade, today's KZGN Talking Points editorial, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Wicknick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. In news about the latest in presidential polls, we get this new data. In New Hampshire, Trump is at 32%, followed way back by Cruz at 14%. This is a 10% jump for Trump. In South Carolina, Trump comes in at 35%, with Carson at 15%, which is a 20% jump. In North Carolina, Trump is hitting 32%, with a second-place Cruz at 16%. This is a 17-point jump. And now the biggie. National polls. We have two of them. While the liberal media and the Republican establishment has spent the last few days trying to destroy Trump, here are his latest national numbers. Real Politics has Trump at 27%. In second, we have Cruz at 17%. And even more interesting, this morning CBS released their new national poll, and it shows Trump at 35%. With Cruz climbing to 16%, and Carson has fallen back to third place. Trump's new numbers show a 13% surge. Rubio is hitting fourth place at 9%, and Bush is sitting at 3%. CBS offered a footnote that the poll was started before the new Trump policy, but was also completed after his proposal to temporarily stop some entry of Muslims. In the Democratic race, Clinton still continues to lead the race with 52%, and Sanders is second with 32%, and O'Malley at 2%. This is generally unchanged from previous polls. Other than the potential criminal charges being brought against Clinton, no one expects her lead will change. And here's a new revelation that has just been discovered about President Carter's handling of the Iranian crisis back in the 1970s. It's being reported that Carter actually did ban Iranians from the U.S., and actually even deported some. During the Iranian hostage crisis, Carter issued a number of orders to put pressure on Iran. Among these, Iranians were banned from entering the United States unless they opposed the Shiite Islamist regime or had a medical emergency. Here's Carter saying it back in 1980. The Secretary of Treasury or State and the Attorney General will invalidate all visas issued to Iranian citizens for future entry into the United States effective today. We will not reissue visas, nor will we issue new visas except for compelling and proven humanitarian reasons or where the national interest of our own country requires it. This directive will be interpreted very strictly. Meanwhile, here's how the Iranian students in the U.S. were treated. Carter ordered 50,000 Iranian students in the U.S. to report to an immigration office with review to deporting those in violation of their visas. In December of 1979, U.S. Appeals Court allowed the deportation of Iranian students found in violation. In November of 1979, the Attorney General had given all Iranian students 1 month to report to a local immigration office. Around 7,000 were found in violation of their visas. Around 15,000 Iranians were forced to leave the U.S. Pundits are likening this to what Trump is talking about. Almost two-thirds of likely 2016 Republican primary voters favor Donald Trump's call to temporarily ban Muslims from entering the U.S., while more than a third say it makes them more likely to vote for him. Most of those attacking him are still not stating his position accurately. He is saying it is a temporary halt until the U.S. can ensure that these people can be adequately screened, and that it will not prevent U.S. citizens from coming into the country. Of course, that hits at the San Bernardino shooter, who was a U.S. citizen. Some of the findings from a Bloomberg Politics Purple Strategies Pulse poll, a poll conducted Tuesday, show support at 37% among all likely general election voters for the controversial proposal put forward by the Republican frontrunner. We believe these numbers are made up of some people who are truly expressing religious bigotry and others who are fearful about terrorism and are willing to do anything they think might make us safer. Doug Usher, who runs polling for Washington-based Purple Strategies. He said in his analysis of his poll's findings, this indicates that, despite some conventional wisdom expressed in the last 48 hours, This is unlikely to hurt Trump, at least in the primary campaign. Support for Trump's proposal remains virtually unchanged even after voters are told both sides of the argument, he said. On one side, they were told that leaders from across the political spectrum have condemned this policy as one that will make the U.S. less safe by alienating the allies we need to fight ISIS. People were also told that Trump has said it is needed until more is known about the threat and that the nation cannot be the victims of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad. And even when voters were provided with this additional information, support for Trump remains essentially unchanged, with 64% of likely Republican primary voters saying they favor the idea. That includes 52% who say they strongly support the proposal. And even more astonishment by the polling group, they report that even after being told about the idea, 37% of likely Republican primary voters say it makes them more likely to support Trump, while 16% say less, and 46% say it has no impact. While Trump has considerable strength among likely Republican primary voters, the survey shows weakness for him in the general election. Including all likely voters, 33% view him favorably and 64% unfavorably. While many pundits and opponents of Trump are trying to destroy him by only talking about one sentence of his proposal, they are also astonished that none of the criticism is hurting Trump, and that his numbers are even going up. One commentator said this: "It appears the Republican establishment and the left-leaning media and the liberals both still don't get it. The people outside of Washington are fed up with what's going on in Washington. They are fed up with this administration. They are upset with the Republican Congress. Simply put, everyday people are mad as heck. They want an outsider, someone willing to fight the establishment of both parties. The polls show Trump is resonating with that anger." Now stay with us for news about our local Christmas parade when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Now here's some happy news. In local Christmas parade news, we get this announcement: Santa's coming, Santa's coming. When, you ask? There will be a Christmas parade again this year. The 47th annual Christmas parade by the Ridgecrest Elks Club is coming this weekend. It'll be held this Saturday, December 12th. Lineup starts at 9 a.m. and the parade starts at 10 a.m. The parade route is west on Las Flores, south on Norma, east on Ridgecrest Boulevard, and north on Balsam Street. All parade participants are instructed to report to the sign-up station on Las Flores Street to get their spot assignment. If you want to watch the parade, we suggest you get out early to get the best spots. Once the roads are closed around the parade route, access gets difficult. The weather report for Saturday is nice and sunny. It will be quite cool at the lineup time. However, the high for the day is predicted to be almost 60 degrees. For those driving around Ridgecrest, they should be aware of these road closures Saturday morning. Put this on your calendar. Come watch the parade. Santa will be arriving in this parade. Now it's time for the 101st KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Here's today's topic. Just think, what if just one person attending that party in San Bernardino had been armed with a concealed weapon? Think about it. In California, we the people have the right to apply for, and if approved, get a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Before I get into the political nature of this editorial, I'd like to first make sure everyone understands what a person has to do to get a permit to carry in California. The process to get a permit is dictated by the state of California. First, a person has to apply for the permit through either the chief of police or the county sheriff. An extensive application has to be completed and turned into the law enforcement agency. They do a thorough background check of the applicant. The applicant is even fingerprinted, and those prints sent off to the Department of Justice for further background check. And also very important is that the applicant also has to provide a reason they want a permit. The applicant cannot just say they want one. They need to have a reason that is acceptable to the law enforcement agency. The reasons can vary greatly from one person to the next. The law enforcement agency can even set some of their own criteria in the permit decision process, and criteria can vary from agency to agency. Next in the process, the applicant must get training in the law and use of a weapon for self-defense, and then actually shoot. demonstrating their proficiency in handling and shooting a handgun. The class is not a shooting training class. It is a class where they have to prove shooting proficiency. The gun the applicant shoots in the class has to be one that they would be listing on their CCW permit and carrying. And it should be noted that the shooting test part is not just a simple test where the person just shoots slowly at a target. It is a test where the person has to demonstrate proficiency in drawing and shooting in a high-stress situation. So it's not just where a person calmly shoots at a bullseye target. And it should be noted that CCW instructors have to submit their training syllabus and content to law enforcement for their approval for the training. They can't just do a simple 1-hour class and off they go. Most California CCW classes are one full day. The largest portion of most classes are in the classroom, with the actual shooting proficiency test only a part of the training. This is because it is very easy for a trained shooting instructor to be able to assess an applicant's ability to shoot in a high-stress environment. There are certain drills the instructor can put a person to determine proficiency. So that's the process to get a California CCW. Now on to the topic. What if just one person attending that party in San Bernardino had been armed with a concealed weapon? Think about it. If a trained person would have been in that party with a concealed handgun, that person could have possibly been able to pull the gun and shoot at the terrorists. Unless the permit holder had been the first shot, there was time to pull a gun and shoot back at these animals. Maybe he could have even hit them. Maybe he would have missed. But don't you think that if they had been confronted with a return gunfire, just maybe they would have fled before killing 14 and wounding 21? The number of deaths and wounded would almost certainly have been reduced. Just to see what the reaction would be to this topic, I posted the question in one of the Facebook blogs. Here are some of the responses I got. Bill wrote, "Shooting at targets does not apply here. 14 dead and 20 wounded were dropped so fast in San Bernardino that you would not have had time to get off or round as you were diving for cover." My reply to that is, it is interesting that he knows how fast the people were shot. The terrorists had to move their gun sight picture one at a time and shoot each person. There was plenty of time for someone on the fringe of the party to draw and use a gun in defense of the people. Bill went on to say this, "The only way your weapon would be effective in a situation that is if you were on top of the shooters before they entered the building and were even accurate enough to hit with your hands shaking at the sight of their AR-15s. You will hesitate unless you have had extensive tactical response training like SWAT. A handgun is no match for that kind of firepower." Well, here I reply that again, Bill seems to be able to judge everyone's capability to react to an extreme situation. That no one could shoot back without trembling in their boots. Are you kidding me? Just who are you that you think that no one could be able to return fire and hit their target? Not to mention, like I said earlier, even think about the terrorist's possible reaction to return fire. Even if the person missed his target, isn't it possible that it might have scared them to turn and run off? Again, reducing the deaths and injuries? Phil offered this perspective. You don't need the sort of accuracy in tactical shooting you do in plinking targets. You shoot for the center of mass, dead center on the body, a larger area to hit. But you are under fire and trying to conceal yourself while getting an accurate enough shot off and trying to outwit your combat opponent. Well, my response to that is, being under fire and trying to hit your target is a much better alternative to just standing there and being a defenseless target waiting to die. Wally said this, he is saying that had you been there, Tom, you would have been dead or face down before you had a chance to do anything. I say this, how do you know that I would have not had a chance to defend myself? Witness reports say that the terrorists were there for about 5 minutes before fleeing. How do you know that a person with a permit could have been standing off to the side and not been one on the first shot? That there could have been time to pull a gun and defend themselves? And how about this? The likely worst conclusion of a person being there with a gun to defend himself would be 14 dead and 21 injured. And if that person had a gun, had been able to pull it and use it, maybe just maybe, there would have been less deaths and injuries. I strongly doubt it would have made it any worse. Again, this is because it was very possible that an animal terrorist would have fled or at least slowed down their attack when fired on. Final thought, people with concealed carry permits are trained and capable of using a firearm for defense. Sure, they aren't trained like a police officer or special military forces. However, if I'm in a room where some animal comes in to kill me, I would much rather be able to at least try and defend myself rather than just being a target to be blown away. In conclusion, if even one person at that party had a gun with them, it is really possible that the outcome could have been much less devastating. Even if just one person could have been saved, it would be one less funeral being attended by a grieving family. I'm Tom Whitnick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email them to info@kzgn.net. Now stay tuned for weather and sports after the break.
From the Burroughs High School TV studio, I'm Sierra Rint with the Burroughs Video Bits for Thursday, December 10th, 2015. Let's take a look at how the athletes are doing from the burrowsathletics.org website. Burroughs wrestlers won against Palmdale last Wednesday. The computer applications classes took part in the Code.org Hour of Code Monday, December 7th. The coding happens online by students all over the world courtesy of Microsoft, Khan Academy, and other tech leaders. This week we showcase Burroughs teacher Miss Dittler, who recently traveled to Russia during the Thanksgiving holiday. As an art teacher, her students are lucky to have a world traveler inspiring their creativity. Give the gift of reading this Christmas. The book fair is open to everyone until Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the BHS library. Friday and Saturday evenings, BHS Drama presents It's a Wonderful Life by Joe Landry. Tickets cost $5 for the 6:30 p.m. show in the Parker Performing Arts Center. Members of the Burroughs High School Avid Club, California Scholarship Federation, Marching Band, and others participated in the Cystic Fibrosis Great Strides fundraiser on Saturday, December 5th. The Avid Club raised $405 on their own. They also sponsored a coin drive where the school raised an additional $643.13. All said and done, the school raised $1,691.26 for the cause. For the Burroughs High School TV broadcast of Ridgecrest, California, I'm Sierra Rint.
From the National Weather Service, periods of heavy rain will continue across the Pacific Northwest and Northern California on Thursday, as the next in a series of storms moves onshore. In addition to the heavy rain, strong winds and mountain snow are possible across the Cascades, Sierras, and Northern Rockies. Temperatures across the nation: Carolinas at 65, Georgia at 65, Arkansas at 69, Northern Texas at 74, Arizona at 68, and Los Angeles at 63. And for us locally, tonight, a 30% chance of rain, mostly cloudy with a low around 41, south-southwest wind 25 to 30 miles per hour with gusts as high as 40. Friday, a 20% chance of showers, partly sunny with a high near 57, west-southwest wind 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts as high as 30. Friday night, partly cloudy with a low around 32, west-northwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts as high as 25. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 57, West wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday night, partly cloudy with a low around 32. Southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Sunday, mostly sunny with a high near 61. Southwest wind 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday night, a 20% chance of rain, mostly cloudy with a low around 37. West-southwest wind 20 to 25 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 35. And Monday, mostly sunny with a high near 52. West-southwest wind 25 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 40. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now here's Tom Eck with sports.
And a very pleasant Thursday afternoon to everyone. Let's talk about local sports first. Last night, the Burroughs High School basketball team, boys varsity, dropped a 8-point game to Palmdale. That game was played here. The JVs, though, the Burroughs JV had a good win last night. They won by 13 against Palmdale. Now, let's talk about the Saracoso Junior High Girls Basketball Tournament. That starts today, Thursday. Games start at 4 o'clock today, and they'll be around up until 7:30 tonight. Then all day Saturday, all the local schools are playing. Murray Monroe, St. Anne's, and Charter, and some other regional schools from the area. Come on out, enjoy some good hamburgers and hot dogs on Saturday afternoon. They have a barbecue and plenty of good fun. Great place to watch basketball. Good seating in there. Come on out. Only $5 for all day for an adult, $3 for kids. Now let's talk about the NBA a little bit. The Lakers played well last night. They took Minnesota into overtime before losing 108-107 in that game. Kobe Bryant, 11 points. Didn't play down the stretch. Kobe Bryant on his last tour, so to say, through some of the Eastern Division teams. He only played one time on the road. Kobe Bryant, in his last year, he's announced his retirement. The Atlanta Hawks, a winner last night. They beat Dallas 108-105. The Jazz are playing better this year. They beat the Knicks. Quinn Snyder, their second-year coach, doing a very good job with that team. The Suns, a winner last night. Minnesota, as I mentioned, got a win. And the Clippers defeated Milwaukee in Milwaukee. The Clippers now have won 3 games in a row. And Toronto beats San Antonio. A lot of baseball stuff going on. Don Mattingly, the new manager now for the Miami Marlins, has hired Dave Wallach, his former third base coach and bench coach last year. He'll be the new bench coach this year, and Barry Bonds, of all people, will be his new batting coach. Barry Bonds back into baseball for the first time in an awful long time. A lot of great NFL games this week. We'll have a list tomorrow for you. Also, the Army-Navy game on Saturday, one of the oldest rivalries in college football. That game being played this year in Annapolis, Maryland. Now, Navy, by the way, will get a very good bowl game this year. They've had a very good season, 10 wins and only 2 losses. That's your sports for this Thursday afternoon. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. All of the KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing us, KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.